The Valorian warship Crimson Fang hummed with the controlled chaos of a species bred for conquest. In its sterile corridors, Ambassador Leilana walked with measured steps, her human frame dwarfed by the towering architecture designed for beings twice her size. The Valorians, apex predators from a world where only the strongest survived, had reluctantly accepted Earth's diplomatic presence after humanity proved surprisingly difficult to intimidate. Leilana's assignment was simple: observe, report, and maintain the fragile peace. What the Galactic Council hadn't anticipated was how thoroughly unprepared they were for humanity's most dangerous weapon: compassion. She heard it during her evening rounds, a sound so alien on this ship that it stopped her mid-stride. Soft whimpering, barely audible above the engine's thrum, echoed from a maintenance alcove. Leilana's training screamed caution. Valorians were proud, violent, and viewed weakness as a cardinal sin. Interfering could mean diplomatic disaster, but the crying continued, small and broken. Leilana found him huddled behind a coolant pipe, a Valorian juvenile, no more than 8 solar cycles old by her estimation. His silver fur was matted, his elongated ears pressed flat against his skull. Most striking were his eyes, brilliant amber, swimming with tears, reflecting the bioluminescent strips lining the corridor. "Young one?" Leilana kept her voice soft, crouching to appear less threatening. The pup's head snapped up, revealing the distinctive facial markings of the Alpha bloodline. This wasn't just any child. This was Jeremiah, son of war leader Krelzor, the most feared Valorian commander in 3 sectors. "Go away, human!" Jeremiah snarled, though his voice cracked. "I am fine." "You don't sound fine," Leilana observed, settling cross-legged on the cold deck plating. She maintained her distance, respecting his space. "I'm Leilana. I cry too sometimes." Lies. But his ears twitched forward, curiosity breaking through fear. "Humans are soft. Father says you cry because you are weak." "Maybe," Leilana conceded with a slight smile. "Or maybe crying is just what happens when feelings get too big to hold inside. Even leaders get scared, Jeremiah." The pup's eyes widened at hearing his name. "How do you—" "Your markings. I've studied Valorian customs." She pulled a small cloth from her pocket, offering it slowly. "What frightened you?" For a long moment, silence stretched between species. Then, like a dam breaking, "Tomorrow is my proving. I must enter the combat arena and defeat 3 training drones before the entire ship's company. If I fail—" His voice dropped to a whisper. "Father will have no heir. I will bring shame to our bloodline." Leilana's heart clenched, 8 years old and facing ritualized combat. She'd read about the proving ceremonies, brutal tests that had killed promising young warriors. But to the Valorians it was necessary. Strength determined survival. "You're afraid you'll fail," she said gently. "I am afraid I will freeze." Jeremiah's admission came out strangled. "When I enter the arena, my legs will not move. My claws will not extend. I have trained perfectly in private sessions, but when others watch—" He buried his face in his paws. "I am defective, broken. Performance anxiety." Leilana had seen it in human children before competitions, recitals, examinations. The fear of public failure was universal, it seemed. "Jeremiah, look at me." When those amber eyes met hers, she continued. "On Earth we have a saying. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's being terrified and doing it anyway. Your fear doesn't make you weak. It makes you aware. It makes you prepare. It makes you careful. Valorians do not fear." "Valorians lie, then." Leilana's bluntness made him blink. "I've seen your father negotiate with human admirals. I've watched his pupils dilate when discussions grow tense. I've noticed how his tail stiffens when unexpected reports arrive. He feels fear. He just doesn't let it control him." Jeremiah processed this, his young mind wrestling with paradigms. You have seen the war leader afraid, concerned, cautious, calculating risks. Lilana chose her words carefully. That's what leaders do. They feel the fear and plan around it. Your father became war leader not because he never felt scared, but because he learned what to do with that fear. The pup's ears slowly rose. What does he do with it? Uses it. Fear sharpens the senses. It makes you faster, stronger, more alert. The trick isn't eliminating fear, it's making fear work for you instead of against you. Lilana spent the next hour teaching Jeremiah breathing techniques, visualization exercises, methods human athletes use to manage pre-competition nerves. She explained how acknowledging fear reduced its power, how reframing anxiety as excitement could transform performance. Close your eyes, she instructed. Picture the arena. Now picture yourself moving through the forms perfectly. Hear the crowd, feel their attention, and know that even if you stumble, even if you fall, you can rise again. That's the real test, Jeremiah. Not perfection, but perseverance. When war leader Krell Zor found them hours later, his massive frame filled the corridor entrance, his expression unreadable. Ambassador! His voice rumbled like distant thunder. What is the meaning of this? Lilana stood calmly, though her heart hammered. Your son needed someone to talk to, war leader. I was honored to listen. Krell Zor's eyes narrowed, fixing on Jeremiah. You shared weakness with an outsider? Before Lilana could intervene, Jeremiah stepped forward. I shared fear, father. The human says even leaders get scared. Is this true? The war leader's stance shifted almost imperceptibly. For several heartbeats, the silence was absolute. Then Krell Zor knelt, bringing himself eye level with his son. Yes, pup, it is true. His admission rippled through the corridor. Tomorrow, when you enter that arena, I will be afraid. Afraid I have not trained you well enough. Afraid the drones will be too fast. Afraid I will lose my son. He placed a massive paw on Jeremiah's shoulder. But I will also be proud, because you will face that arena despite your fear. That is strength. Jeremiah's eyes glistened. And if I fail, then you will try again and again until you succeed. That is the Valorian way. Krell Zor glanced at Lilana. Perhaps humans understand this better than we admitted. The next day, Lilana stood among Valorian warriors as Jeremiah entered the combat arena. She saw his legs tremble, saw him pause at the threshold. Then she saw him close his eyes, take a breath, just as she'd taught him, and step forward. The drones activated. Jeremiah moved. He wasn't perfect. He stumbled once, took a glancing hit that drew blood. But he rose. He adapted. And when the final drone fell to his claws, the entire ship erupted in howls of approval. Across the arena, Krell Zor caught Lilana's eye and performed the Valorian gesture of respect, a slow blink and head dip reserved for honored warriors. Lilana smiled. Humanity's greatest strength had never been weapons or technology. It was understanding that even in the vast darkness of space, across countless species and cultures, everyone carried the same fundamental fears. And sometimes, all it took to bridge the stars was a whisper. Even leaders get scared.